What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship. Today, again, at the request of Adam Spain, we continue a 4-part mini-series where we discuss the infamous 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Last week, we talked about the Horsemen of War, Zuriel. You can see that right here. This week, it's all about the Horsemen of Pestilence, Apollyon, with stats first appearing in Pathfinder's Bestiary 6, and additional lore appearing in Book of the Damned. Don't forget, guys, we're still giving away a free custom commissioned character portrait through our channel and through our friend Ollie Boldador. All you guys out there on Roll20 who like to play weird esoteric races and can't find a perfect picture for your token, as well as everybody else out there who loves really sweet character art, maybe something to display, something to print, something to frame, put on a playmat. The list goes on. If you'd like to enter that contest, the link is in the description. As always, this channel is brought to you in part by patronage. Today, we're shouting out Joseph Harvilla. Joe, as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being my best friend and role-playing companion for years and years and years. Now let's get down to it. Fun fact before we get too far here, in the New Testament book of Revelation, an angel called Abaddon is described as the king of an army of locusts, and his name, written in Greek, is not Abaddon, but rather Apollyon. In Pathfinder, Apollyon is the horseman of Pestilence and rules in a place called Abaddon, but I digress. To quote the book of Revelations, "Then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, as with the voice of thunder, 'Come.' I looked, and behold a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer." Sometimes the first horseman of the apocalypse, referred to as the White Rider, is treated as the horse of conquest, but under another interpretation, the first horseman is called Pestilence, and he is associated with infectious diseases and the plague. This interpretation is common in popular culture references to the 4 horsemen, aka Apollyon himself. Apollyon, the Prince of Plagues, takes the form of a pockmarked man with the head of a diseased, snarling ram. The Horseman of Pestilence wears a cloak tailored from the tanned, stitched-together skins of a dozen angels, each flayed alive after failed attempts to slay the horseman and recover the souls he'd taken within his domain. Each angelic soul, however, was half devoured by Apollyon as he used the other portion to empower a series of bows, the Ushers of Black Rain, granted to his greatest servitors as badges of their position, with the original Usher of the Black Rain kept by the horseman himself. Apollyon's horse, the Horse of Pestilence, appears to be filthy and festering, covered with foul, pus-dripping sores and rancid boils squirming with maggots. The Book of the Damned names that horse Septiceus. It serves as Apollyon's mount, bearing a golden crown marked with its master's symbol and a neck punctured by a dozen barbed arrows. Apollyon's reign as the Prince of Plagues began aeons ago, when the previous Horseman of Pestilence fell, not at the hands of one of its underlings or a vengeful god, as with the usual fate of the Horsemen, but to something totally unknown. The precise details have never been discovered, at least not by the daemons, but it's thought that the former Horseman of Pestilence, Yersineus, went missing during a foray into the Maelstrom. It was amid this chaos that Apollyon rose to power, slaughtering his way through half the rival claimants before the others finally yielded. While the other horsemen are known to engage in far-reaching plans and overt acts of brutality towards the mortals of the world, Apollyon and his servitors focus instead on their distinct form of creation, the crafting of new diseases and plagues capable of doing the daemons' work for them, which, of course, as you can imagine, spread like wildfire across the material plane. Apollyon, the Horseman of Pestilence, is obviously neutral evil. His cult grants domains of air, darkness, destruction, and evil, with the subdomains catastrophe, daemon, loss, and night. His favored weapon, not the bow, is in fact the scythe, and his unholy symbol is a yellow scythe with diseased, fleshy tendrils. His temples include battlefields, open mass graves, sewers, and swamps, and he's typically worshipped by evil druids, leopards, plague carriers, the Urdeffins, and victims of pandemics, as well as were-rats. Apollyon's obedience requires us to induce the spread of a disease into a population, either by befouling a well, encouraging the fecundity of disease-carrying pests, handing out contaminated clothing, or directly spreading a disease you carry to others. In return, Apollyon grants us a +4 profane bonus on saving throws against diseases and poisons. So here's hoping you're not trying to carry a disease to people through yourself, because Apollyon gives you a +4 on the save, and then you just end up passing with that +4, and the cycle becomes even harder for you. Yeah, you gotta work for it, I suppose. Apollyon's Evangelist boons will allow us to cast Ray of Sickening 3 times a day, Blindness Deafness twice a day, or once a day Contagion. At level 16, you can cast Plague Storm twice per day as a spell-like ability, and at 20th, infused with Apollyon's Grace, you are immune to the negative effects of disease, yet you can still carry diseases in your body and infect others with them. Disease effects you create take effect at once, with the first day of damage happening immediately. The disease then progresses as normal. The saving throw DCs of disease effects you generate increase by 1, and victims can't recover from these effects naturally through rest. Only magic can cure the disease you create, although those who contract the disease from someone you infect treat the disease as normal. Any creature that is immune to disease as a result of a class feature or a non-artifact magical item is not immune to diseases you create, but they gain a +4 on their saving throw to resist that disease. Any creature that is immune to disease via a racial feature or a feature of a creature type remains immune to that disease. So yeah, if you're trying to play an assassin who likes to poison people, maybe you want to play some alchemist archetype that likes to poison things, Apollyon seems to be the way to go. Especially from the GM's point of view, if you know you're going to have a lot of paladins, but they really need to contract the Bubonic Plague. Yeah, right there. There it is. Apollyon's Exalted boons grant access to Diagnose Disease 3 times a day, Summon Swarm twice a day, or Vermin Shape 1 once a day. At 16th level, once per minute, as a standard action up to 3 times a day, you can exhale a cloud of biting, corpse-bloated black flies in a 20-foot cone. Creatures caught in the cone take 8d6 points of slashing damage. Of course, this does allow a reflex save for half, that being DC 10 plus half your hit dice plus your con mod, but any creature that takes any damage at all from this effect is sickened for a minute. The cloud of flies lingers for 1d4 plus 1 rounds, congealing into a buzzing 20-foot square cloud, centered on the cone's original point of origin. A creature that ends its turn in this cloud must succeed at a reflex save or take 46 points of slashing damage and be sickened for a minute. Any area effect that deals damage or creates strong or stronger winds disperses the cloud. You, of course, are immune to the effects of these flies, as are all daemons. At 20th level, you can cast an Empowered Creeping Doom as a spell-like ability once a day, and as well, you become immune to swarm attacks. Being immune to swarm attacks is great, but can we get that a little earlier than 20th, please? Apollyon, oh, Prince of Plagues. By 20th level, I can probably just fly over these things or, like, fireball past them. Apollyon's Sentinel boons will allow us to cast Mount 3 times a day, War Train Mount twice a day, or Phantom Steed once a day, much like Zuriel, and I'm beginning to see a pattern here. At 16th level, up to 3 times per day as a swift action, you can cause a creature damaged by a ranged or melee weapon you wield to become affected by Contagion. At 20th level, as a swift action, you can summon into your hands either a +4 Unholy Wounding Scythe or a +4 Adaptive Distance Unholy Longbow, lasting for a number of rounds equal to your hit dice plus your Constitution modifier. These weapons vanish if you release them, and the rounds of use need not be consecutive. Again, I have, in a campaign, fought all 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. When we got to Apollyon, he was flanked by what were essentially GM PCs, a custom race with class levels, and as we all know, class levels pretty much trump anything any bestiary is going to throw at you. So I may be a little biased in my going into not knowing what he does assessment of how well Apollyon fights, because the guys with spellcaster levels and ranger levels, and I think anti-paladin levels was the other one, were hitting way harder than he was. This is not to talk down Apollyon too much, as he does tip the scales at CR 29. This guy is worth 6.5 million and some change experience points. Definitely nothing to be trifled with. Every 1d4 rounds, as a move action, Apollyon can exhale a cloud of flies in a 60-foot cone. Those caught in the area take 18d6 points of piercing damage from the bites and are nauseated from 1d4 rounds. A creature that succeeds at a DC 42 reflex save takes half damage and negates the nausea effect, but any creature that takes any damage at all from these flies is automatically sickened for 1 minute. These flies linger for 1d4 plus 1 rounds, gathering at the start of Apollyon's next turn into a buzzing 20-foot square centered on the cone's point of origin. Pretty much the exact same thing as the Exalted Boon at 16th, just way more powerful because, powerful demigod. Those bitten by Apollyon, and in addition to having a super sweet magic weapon, he does have a bite attack, risk contracting Soul Plague, a deadly affliction that causes flesh to rot and drip away, and that fills the sufferer with overwhelming despair and nausea because, your flesh is dripping away. The soul of a creature that dies from Soul Plague is consigned to Abaddon to become one of the hunted, regardless of the victim's actual alignment and religion in life. The hunted being something along the lines of, think when you go to hell and you're strapped to that rack and somebody's whipping you. We've all seen the imagery. It's that same thing, but in Abaddon, all of the daemons, which are vaguely animal-esque, get to chase you through the forest and hunt you and eat you evermore. Soul Plague can be cured via magic, but it can't be cured through normal rest. The onset is immediate, and the effect of Soul Plague is 1d8 con drain and nauseated for 24 hours. We will note that nauseated is one of the more powerful conditions one can place on a character. Nauseated creatures are in fact unable to attack, cast spells, concentrate on spells, or do anything other than a single move action. Apollyon gives that to you for 24 hours. As a swift action, but no more than once per day per target, Apollyon can inflict upon a single target within 60 feet any disease that the creature has ever previously suffered, unless the target succeeds at a DC 38 Fortitude save. The onset is immediate, and this ability affects creatures immune to disease unless they are of demigod or greater stature. Though creatures immune to disease get a +4 bonus on their saving throws, so when you do shake off Soul Plague, once per day Apollyon snaps his fingers, you have it right back. In addition, when you had the chicken pox, he's got that one too. Apollyon is surrounded by a carpet of plague-ridden vermin that bubbles up from the ground at his feet. Any creatures in the area occupied by the plague shadow at the end of Apollyon's turn take 5d6 points of swarm damage and must succeed at a DC 38 Fortitude save or be nauseated for a round, again, pretty much locked out for one round. Apollyon's weapon, the Usher of the Black Rain, is either a scythe or a composite longbow with a strength rating of +16 as a move action at Apollyon's will. In both forms, the Usher is a +5 unholy wounding weapon. As a longbow, it creates ammunition automatically as it is fired, and against foes who are currently suffering from a disease. The Usher of Black Rain deals an additional 6 points of profane damage with each hit. The Usher of the Black Rain burns to ash if Apollyon's cloak, which again was stitched from the flesh of angels whose souls empower his bow, is brought to Nirvana, the neutral good afterlife, washed clean there, and then buried while intoning each dead angel's long-forgotten name. Sounds like a campaign in and of itself. Find the burial ground of these angels somewhere in Abaddon, learn their names, get them all together, and for an end quest, bring that cloak back to Nirvana at the behest of Saren Ray, who we'll be talking about as we get through these videos. I know it's been requested, Sam, sit tight, we'll get there as soon as we can, or maybe shell in any of the neutral good gods, really. Sounds to me like we need to roll up some paladins. But what do you guys think of Apollyon? Have you used him? Would you use him? Would you worship him and build some kind of weird poison build? Because if so, I want to hear about it. As always, like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship, where we'll be covering the Horsemen of Famine, Trelmarexian, drops next Wednesday.